Falling for a troll account, you hate to see it. I think I started off my last video mocking the incompetence of Kotaku, and here we are again. Always check the handle and verify the account. I thought that was journalism 101. Then again, rushing to be the first with the story is kind of the issue with gaming sites like Kotaku. If you're not aware, this incorrect article came to be from a fake 343 Industries Twitter account, which stated Halo Infinite was being delayed to 2022. That obviously is false, and considering how close we were to April Fool's Day, probably best to double check things, but they did not. When you look at Marvel's Avengers roadmap, and specifically under the Red Room takeover, you would assume new hero outfits would be free, right? Additionally, this poorly written tweet implies that MCU-inspired outfits are coming as rewards. Turns out they are not. Exclusive to the game's microtransactions store and based on pricing, likely going to be about $14. Obviously, the few that remain are pissed about this, but just the latest for such a mismanaged live service looter that is struggling to retain players. Now, a game that is also in that looter category but enjoying great success is Outriders, which reached a peak of 110,000 players on Steam, around 4 times greater than Marvel's Avengers peak. Just goes to show that gamers want solid, complete, fun experiences, not live service shenanigans that paywalls so much. Also helps that Outriders really benefited from good word of mouth from its demo and a loot system that feels satisfactory. Obviously, Outriders has issues, like many technical ones, but it's pretty obvious why at launch it's doing better than Avengers ever did. In other news, yet another study told us all what we kind of already all knew: loot boxes are in fact gambling. Now, Activision recently abused copyright laws to shut down a Call of Duty Warzone map leak, and the Entertainment Software Association floated around to various game publishers the idea of a premium paywall digital E3 because that definitely sounds like a brilliant idea to get people to not watch the show. When this news leaked, the ESA was quick to dismiss the idea, but it should not be surprising that a dying, declining event was exploring avenues to further monetize the experience. On this channel, we've talked extensively about the issues that BioWare faces. Specifically, massive departures of veteran staff has been a consistent issue the last few years, and it continued the other day when 10-year BioWare veteran, who is best known for being the game director of Anthem, Jonathan Warner, has decided to depart from the studio. As is the usual case in goodbye posts, Warner said that the franchises like Dragon Age and Mass Effect are in good hands. Truthfully though, we are in unknown territory. The BioWare team developing the next Dragon Age and Mass Effect games are not the ones that brought us Dragon Age Origins or the Mass Effect trilogy. They are the ones that delivered Andromeda and Anthem. So as everyone gets excited for the future based on cinematic trailers and teases, I would keep expectations in check, or actually probably keep it pretty low. Leadership running for the door all in the same time frame does not inspire much hope, and really creates many questions about what is happening behind the scenes, what the Grim Reaper of game studios EA makes of all of this chaos. And speaking of EA, the first details for DICE's Battlefield 6 have leaked, pointing to a slightly futuristic setting, 128 player matches, a new battle royale experience, because we gotta have that, which may be free to play, along with a single player campaign that allows for you to take the side of the Russians or the Americans. Battlefield 6 is also reportedly just called Battlefield, and the multiplayer has been described as Battlefield 3/4 on steroids, which is great news in my opinion. Let's just hope they can stick the landing and not have this be another mismanaged, disappointing mess like Battlefield 5 was. Anyway, we have a lot of big news to discuss today, including the future of CD Projekt Red, some major concerns about that, and some disappointing decisions made recently by Sony and various game developers from the likes of Respawn, Ubisoft, Blizzard, BioWare, Treyarch, Bungie, Guerrilla Games, and so on, all banding together to sign a petition linking violent video games to real-world violence. Not joking. So indeed, a lot to go over, but before we proceed forward, today's video is brought to you by Displate. Once again, I am partnering with a company that I both enjoy and respect, as this is a product that I personally use. Displates are wonderful, well-manufactured metal posters for all kinds of artwork, coming in different sizes, finishes, and frames, featuring over 1.4 million designs from areas like video games, manga, movies, comics, nature, history, and much more. When purchasing Displates, you can expect fast delivery, prints on demand with each signed by the master production, an easy to set up magnet mounting system, which removes concerns over damaging your walls, and also each Displate sold means a tree planted. As is shown on the screen, these are some of the high quality metal Displates that I have, and yes, Displate actually has partnered with a variety of game companies, including CDPR, Bethesda, IO Interactive, Blizzard, and more. What this means is beautiful prints for a variety of iconic games like Hitman and The Witcher 3. A personal favorite of mine is this God of War themed print. If you are looking for more recommendations, I have my own collection list composed to my Displate profile, which includes some amazing Witcher, Ghost of Tsushima, and sci-fi themed designs. If you are interested in getting a Displate, follow the link in the description down below. You'll be helping to support the channel with each purchase, and also right now you receive a 25% discount if you get 1 or 2 Displates, and if you get 3 or more you'll receive a 35% discount. Anyway, a big thank you to Displate for sponsoring the video. So, Sony has been making some very questionable decisions as of late. One of the biggest ones, which really did not get the attention that it truly deserved, was them pretty much killing their Sony Japan Studio. In recent weeks and days, we've seen numerous high-profile veteran developers say goodbye to SIE Japan. As reported originally by gaming outlet VGC, it's been said the iconic studio behind games like Gravity Rush, Knack, and most recently assisting in the development of the Demon's Souls remake for PS5 just was not profitable enough for Sony. Furthermore, VGC claimed, very concerning, that this was part of PlayStation shifting more power from its native Japan to its new US headquarters. Since the company moved its headquarters to California in 2016, it has been centralizing power there, leading to layoffs and restructuring in SIE's regional offices, which of course includes Japan. As of recording this video, yet another big departure has been announced, with Sony Japan and Demon's Souls remake director Gavin Moore leaving the studio and Sony after 24 years. It's also been announced Japanese developer Clap Hands, known for their Everybody Golfs franchise, is ending its 20-year exclusive partnership with PlayStation for a release on the Apple Arcade with their next game. Might not be significant, but it appears Sony is moving further and further away from their Japanese roots for instead, I guess, sunny California. Now, that obviously is not the only negative thing to happen with Sony recently, because they decided suddenly to kill the PlayStation 3, PSP, and PS Vita digital stores. Unfortunately, preservation just is not an objective of SIE CEO Jim Ryan. In 2017, he kinda spilled the beans in an interview with Time magazine, saying, "When we've dabbled with backwards compatibility, I can say it is one of those features that is much requested, but not actually used much. That, and I was at a Gran Turismo event recently where they had PS1, PS2, PS3, and PS4 games, and the PS1 and the PS2 games, they looked ancient. Like, why would anybody play this?" Xbox has been notorious for supporting and preserving old games. They also have used Sony's rather unfortunate recent decision to highlight their commitment to older classic games, a position that I personally wish Sony and Nintendo both would take. Regardless, following rumors, it was announced this week officially that on July 2nd, both the PSP and PS3 digital stores will shut down, and on August 27th, the PS Vita store will shut down, a decision that was met to outrage on social media, with many rightfully upset with Sony's lack of support for older titles. VGC estimates that 2,200 digital-only games will disappear once Sony shuts down their stores later this summer. The company's only response thus far is explaining that they wish to focus their resources and attention on the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 digital stores. To make matters worse, various small developers who are actively working on new games for the PS Vita found out at the same time the public did. This has led to these indie studios either rushing to release their game ports before the shutdown and or canceling game ports and saying goodbye to years of wasted work and money. As reported by The Gamer, Miguel Sternberg of indie studio Spooky Squid Games was working on a PS Vita port of Russian Subway Dogs when he saw the report about the store closure. Like many others, he had no warning from Sony. The port really has been a labor of love. We're way past the point where it makes a ton of financial sense to release on Vita, but it's one of my all-time favorite consoles and I wanted to release a game on it before everything shut down. Most of the price of deciding to do a Vita port has already been paid. This is my first time going through this process of coding for consoles. My game dev background is art, not code, so there's no guarantee I'll hit the deadline. It's a lot of stress. Regardless of your opinion on these stores and whether or not they should be shut down or not, I think we can all agree Sony's lack of communication here is just disappointing and has been harmful to numerous indie and smaller developers. So look, as much as I've been impressed and blown away by Sony's consistency with delivering top-notch quality exclusives. In other areas, it's been a different story. You look at Xbox, who continues to expand their backwards compatibility lineup, and Game Pass continues to expand with games like Outriders and MLB The Show 21 launching day one on the subscription service. Absolutely wild that a longtime PlayStation franchise, MLB The Show, costs $70 for PlayStation 5 players, while Xbox Series X players just need a subscription. Obviously, I'm sure this deal was orchestrated by MLB, but I just think there's many things Sony can and should be doing better, especially for their customers. Xbox continues to make very pro-consumer decisions, while regularly adding more and more value to their services. Many, including myself, have been awaiting Sony to have an answer to some of the things that Xbox has achieved, and thus far we really have not seen that. Hopefully that will change soon. Next, this has been a story that's been breaking gaming headlines for the last couple of weeks, and that is the revival of 6 Days in Fallujah. We've talked a little bit about this, but this was an extremely controversial game then, and it is again a controversial game now. Back, I believe it was around like 2009, the Modern Warfare 2 days. This is when the game was originally set to release. I believe back then it was a third-person shooter, and there was a lot of controversy over it, as a lot of war veterans were against its release. There was Fox News segments against it, and at the end of the day, Konami, the publisher, pulled the plug. But here, over 10 years later, it is back, and it's going to be releasing sometime this year. And again, there is a lot of outrage, although it's coming from a different crowd, and it's very concerning what they are saying about this game, and a lot of the misinformation and assumptions that are being made about 6 Days in Fallujah is just outrageous. Now, I'm not even saying that I'm supporting or anticipating this game, because I don't actually think that the gameplay looks all that great. The procedural generation decision is kind of strange for a documentary style experience, and there's also questions about the authenticity. The developers behind this game have conducted various interviews, and the remarks have been a little bit everywhere, and it's really difficult to judge what this experience will actually be and what the developers will truly deliver on. So those are all fair criticisms in my opinion. But the problem that we're seeing now is there's a censorship campaign, and the problem with this censorship campaign, it's not just about getting this game banned, it's about actually what's specifically being written about this game and the amount of AAA developers that are signing their names on this. And it is absolutely dangerous, something that we saw over a decade ago from notable gaming figures such as Jack Thompson, who really tried taking down the video game industry. But now, I mean, you don't need Jack Thompson because AAA video game developers are doing his own work for him. Beyond the absurdity of so many people trying to get a game banned based off of pretty much just assumptions, we have petitions like this. Now, before we get into the meat of this and why it's so problematic, we need to remember that every single year, and actually it was just a number of weeks ago, lawmakers are trying to get video games banned for being too violent. A belief that has been debunked numerous times by so many psychologists and studies, but still in present day we have to deal with this nonsense. And now these lawmakers have their ammunition because a bunch of AAA developers, whether they read this or not, they signed a petition which pretty much linked video games to violence. Here's the original writing on change.org, a petition that was signed by over 5,000 to 6,000 people, including many AAA developers. The petition is titled "Stop Highware Games in Victoria from Normalizing the Mass That of Iraqis." I'm not going to read the entire contents, but the main pieces that you need to know is that they call, the American invaders, war crimes, blah 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 blah, the Iraq War, bombing, shooting, and humiliating the Iraqi people is being normalized in the sick video game, which will also inevitably help breed a new generation of mass that in America and brainwash gamers into thinking that is okay. All of that is an assumption, all of that is pretty much a lie at this point, because we have not seen or heard enough about this game. But what's most important that you need to know is the names that attach themselves to this petition. It was really kickstarted by a WB's Game Montreal lead designer. He gave it all the attention, and this is what it spawned. A Unity community manager, female shepherd voice actor of the Mass Effect trilogy, Glitchers manager, Sumo digital manager, IGN video editor, International Games Developer Association employee, Disney Animation Studios developer, Treyarch gameplay engineer, Grinding Gear Games UI artist, Blackbird Interactive lead designer, No Breaks Games studio head, Avengers game narrative designer, Ubisoft Montreal narrative designer, Dead by Daylight designer, Guerrilla Games senior designer, Gunfire Games designer, Minecraft designer, Ubisoft Montreal tester, Respawn Entertainment designer, BioWare artist, Rainbow Six Siege designer, Respawn Entertainment senior designer, Square Enix developer, Ubisoft designer, EA community team member, Ubisoft Quebec director, Bungie lead animation developer, Insomniac Games animator, Insomniac Games lead artist, ArenaNet studio director, Extra Credits showrunner, The Gamer writer, Blizzard artist, Respawn Entertainment designer, EA community manager, France 24 journalist, GamesIndustry.biz employee, and many, many more signed their names on this petition supporting it. Absolutely insane, absolutely unacceptable. It's even more atrocious that so many of these people work on first-person shooters and still thought it was a brilliant idea to sign their name. For what it's worth, all this information was composed by Twitter user Lied15, a huge shout out to him. And the reason why I'm not saying specific names and just the developer and their position broadly is because I don't think any of these individuals deserve to have people bombarding their Twitter profiles. And I want to believe that most that actually did sign this petition didn't understand what they were truly signing their name on. Now, one of the biggest lies about this game is that there is no Iraqi perspective being shown and that this is just US propaganda. That's just blatantly false, and it's easy information you can find on their website. They've spoken to apparently 24 Iraqi civilians getting their perspective for this game. So an assumption that people are making that this is just going to glorify that of Iraqi civilians is just a lie. Obviously, there are questions about the quality of the experience, if it's actually going to be authentic. Criticize it for that. But calling it to be censored, boycotted, banned is just an extremely bad look for this entire games industry and can backfire badly on creativity and innovation. And it also should be mentioned, some people have said that this could be against FTC regulations, some people calling for an investigation because on the FTC under group boycotts it says any company may on its own refuse to do business with another firm, but an agreement among competitors not to do business with targeted individuals or businesses may be an illegal boycott, especially if the group of competitors working together has market power. Some people have brought attention to that. I'm not too sure about the legality of that. In all honesty, I actually think that this is all going to be to the benefit of the developers because outrage equals money. We've seen that in the past with games like Kingdom Come Deliverance. And I think we're going to see that again later this fall because I do not think that this outrage is going away anytime soon. So since this petition blew up and got a lot of attention, we've had some articles pushing back on this. Eric Kane of Forbes saying 6 days in Fallujah is the cancellation of the week, and it doesn't matter what the developers have said or the fact that nobody has actually played the game yet. And then he said, beyond the principle of the thing, I don't believe in censorship and find efforts to ban art of any kind absolutely deplorable. The effort to cancel this game is simply dishonest, full stop. People are either lying about what they know about the game, ignorant entirely and just parroting others, making unsubstantiated claims that the game will promote those crimes, twisting headlines to misrepresent the developers, or conveniently ignoring the game's actual description. He is on point with his take, and he seems to be the only logical gaming journalist that I'm actually seeing about this, and as you would assume, Eric Kane received massive backlash for this. Those who actually called him out was a Fanbyte Media news editor, an IGN reporter, PlayStation Lifestyle editor, a Capcom director, Respawn Entertainment developer, IGN writer, a Twinfinite writer, and an Epic Games manager, all calling out Eric Kane for this really perfectly logical take on 6 days in Fallujah. And for what it's worth, this petition actually has been now updated, removing that last line. I wonder why. But after 6,000 signatures, it was changed, and for some reason change.org doesn't remove all of these signatures. I really don't know why that is. But now, as of recording this video, it has over 12,000 signatures, and this is what they reworded that last part. They said, bombing, shooting, and humiliating the Iraqi people is being normalized in the sick video game, which will also inevitably condition gamers into thinking that is okay. And honestly, this is just one of those insane stories of 2021, which I just find so unbelievable, but really not that surprising considering where things have been going within this games industry. Next, we dive into the latest with CD Projekt Red and Cyberpunk 2077. Last on the channel, we talked about patch 1.2, and it has since released, and not surprising, it doesn't fix the entire game, but it has a whole lot of fixes, much needed, but again, this is just one step. Like I said before, this game is nowhere near ready, and it probably won't be in that decent to good state until until sometime in 2022. This latest patch 1.2 presented a lot of new problems, and there's been montages being presented on Twitter, Reddit, and other places. And like I said, this is going to be the story for a while, and the question is, when will Sony actually allow the game back onto the PlayStation Store? It's been over 100 days since the game was removed, and there's really no indication it could be coming back anytime soon. But recently, we got a ton of new information from CD Projekt Red on the future of their company and how they are changing their ways following the disastrous launch of Cyberpunk 2077. And this very question about when the game would be coming back to the PlayStation Store was brought up, and CD Projekt Red's executive said that it's closer to coming back to the PlayStation Store. However, the final decision belongs to Sony, so pretty much a water is wet type of statement. It at the very least confirms what a lot of us have suspected, and that is that CDPR is really at the mercy of Sony, and it definitely still appears to be that Sony is pissed at CDPR for their lack of communication back in December, when they, CDPR, went ahead and announced refunds without consulting Sony first. But without a doubt, the biggest revelation to come from CD Projekt's strategy update for investors was in regards to their multiplayer plans, both long-term and short-term. As most of you know, a standalone Cyberpunk multiplayer game was supposed to be coming sometime in the near future. The expectation was that this may be coming out in 2022 or 2023, but now it looks like this project might have actually been cancelled. This is what CEO Adam Kaczynski had to say about it the other day.
Previously, we hinted that our next AAA would be a multiplayer Cyberpunk game, but we have decided to reconsider this plan. Given our new, more systematic and agile approach, instead of primarily focusing on one big online experience or game, we are focusing on bringing online into all of our franchises one day.
So what my honest reaction to all of this is that short term, it appears that Cyberpunk, the multiplayer standalone game, has been scrapped. They canceled that. Probably a good idea after the Cyberpunk 2077 launch disaster. But long term, it looks like they're going to be integrating more online components into all of their games. So what that entails is something that I believe may mirror that of Rockstar Games and how they go about game development. So what does that mean? Well, you deliver a huge single player experience, hopefully extremely well received by consumers and critics, and then you build on that with a live service. So essentially think Red Dead Redemption 2 and Red Dead Online, which followed about a month later and was in beta form for like 6 or 7 months. That's what I think CD Projekt Red could be maybe considering for the future of Cyberpunk and whatever the Witcher spin-off game is going to be. It is important to note that CD Projekt Red's executives multiple times over the years have said that they look up to Rockstar Games with how they go about game development. Now Adam Kaczynski would continue, and he discussed a little further with their online ambitions and really try to do a bit of damage control, try to tell everybody that they are committed to single player.
We aim to make online technologies an important part of our future games. Let's stress this here. Projekt Red makes single-player, story-driven AAA RPGs. That is not changing. What is changing is our long-term approach to online. And by this, we mean ensuring we are properly prepared to implement online elements in our games where they make sense. We don't want to go overboard or lose our single-player DNA. We want to take thoughtful steps to build robust online capabilities.
I think it is worth mentioning that another big announcement came the other day in which CD Projekt Red Vancouver was formed, and that was actually a rebrand of Digital Scapes, which CD Projekt Red purchased, a studio known for specializing in multiplayer. So Adam Kaczynski is trying to downplay what could be the future. I definitely think that they're not throwing away their ambitions of having recurrent consumer spending. They said that the Cyberpunk standalone multiplayer game was going to have microtransactions, and I don't think that we're going to be seeing a co-op mode or something like that in the future. I definitely think that we're going to see some form, a live service for the Witcher and Cyberpunk franchises. What that looks like, how massive that is, it's really hard to say at this point, but it definitely seems like CD Projekt Red is preparing to branch out for the future with adding an online focus. So within this strategy update for investors, it was also announced by CD Projekt Red that in 2022 they're going to be developing the next next Witcher game and the next Cyberpunk game simultaneously. And it was further announced that CD Projekt Red is going to be changing how they go about marketing. This follows a lot of criticism that has been levied at them for how they went about Cyberpunk 2077's marketing campaign. So what they are going to be doing seems to be maybe something that mirrors that of Bethesda, which is basically not showing off much of the game until a number of months before release. What this boils down to is those long gameplay demos that came years in advance for, I believe, both The Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk 2077. That's just not going to be happening anymore. But this is what CDPR's senior vice president had to say about their change in marketing approach.
Going forward, our campaigns will be much shorter. We'll wait until much closer to our game's launch before we start showing things like trailers, demos, or going in depth about mechanics, etc. Of course, that doesn't mean small teasers for new projects will stop. If it makes sense, we will still tease future projects at an early stage, with the actual campaign waiting until closer to launch. And when campaigns do start, we aim to properly manage expectations across all platforms. This means focusing on communication on polished game footage, not concepts. We'll also showcase footage of our games on all platforms they will be released on.
I really cannot say that I'm too surprised by any of these actions that are being taken by CD Projekt Red. But one of the big differences that we're seeing now is there's a massive critical eye over CD Projekt Red with everything that they do, and a lot of people are extremely skeptical about some of these changes. For the immediate future of Cyberpunk 2077, it's pretty clear what's going to be happening. Here in 2021, CD Projekt Red is going to continue fixing the game. We're going to have free DLC, there'll be a next-gen update later in the year, and then 2022 we're going to see a couple of paid DLCs, and then they will move on. There have been some recent leaks as of late which point to there being maybe 9 free DLCs coming for Cyberpunk 2077 this summer, and then in 2022 there being 2 paid DLCs, so we'll have to wait to find out. Those plans obviously can change, maybe more, maybe less. I'm not expecting any substantial changes coming with the free DLC. I think people really should have low expectations. It does seem like we're going to be seeing some new outfits, some new vehicles, weapons, maybe even a new area to explore, but we're not going to be seeing any crazy new features like new mini games and all of that. That will probably have to wait for paid DLC. And will those be as massive as The Witcher 3's? Only time will tell. Look, CDPR were the darlings of this industry for quite some time. Now they find themselves in new territory that much of the rest of this AAA games industry finds themselves in. CDPR is going to be facing an uphill battle now, and my only hope is that they prove their gamer-first approach, which they claim is still one of their core beliefs. A lot happened with Cyberpunk 2077, which was simply unacceptable. CDPR is now dealing with the consequences with reputation and stock, which has continued to plummet by north of 50% since early December. I really hope all of this fuels them to understand their failures and over-deliver with future games and content. They've benefited greatly from many pro-consumer decisions that they made in the past, and I just hope they double down on that now. But before I wrap up this video, I do want to give another huge shout out to the sponsor of the video, Displayed. Phenomenal metal posters featuring prints for so many popular game franchises like The Witcher. If you are interested in getting one for yourself, check the link in the description below for a huge discount. Anyway, Cyberpunk 2077 released about 4 months ago, and much has happened since then. What do you make of the game, and when do you think Sony will allow it back onto the PlayStation Store? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. But thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this video, or if you found any informative value, and make sure to follow my other social media accounts for updates on new videos. Links are always down in the description below. I'm most active on Twitter, giving opinions on news that I do not always get into video forums, so do make sure to follow me over there. Also check out my Discord for all sorts of discussion on games, and again, thank you for joining. Consider subscribing for more videos like this, and I'll see you later.